Today, we are going to presenting the theory of realism in international relations.
Hi, I will start with what is realism. Realism has been considered the most dominant school of thinking since World War II, and it is still widely used in politics in the 21st century. Realism, also known as political realism, it is a view of international politics that stresses its competitive and conflictual side. It is usually contrasted with idealism or liberalism, which tend to emphasize cooperation. In international relations, realism is a dominant theoretical framework that sees world politics as a never-ending competitive battle between self-interested states in anarchic system for security and power. It highlights that states act to secure their own survival, prioritizing national interests ahead of morality, and that conflict is inherent because there is no central global authority. There are 5 theories of realism, which is: first, international politics are anarchic; second, the primary actors in international politics are sovereign states; third, states are rational unitary actors acting under their own national interests; fourth, the state's main objectives are its own existence and national security; and last but not least is national power and capabilities are a key litmus test for a relationship between states.
Now, I will explain more about the theory or key principles of realism. The first one is international system is anarchic. In realism, the international system is considered anarchic because there is no central world government or higher authority that can control the actions made by states. Therefore, states must rely on themselves to ensure their own survival and security. For example, the Cold War between United States and Soviet Union. During the Cold War, the two superpowers built up huge military arsenals and nuclear weapons because they could not trust each other or any world government to protect them. This is a reflection of the self-help nature of an anarchic international system. The second one is states prioritize survival and national security. Realist theory holds that a state's primary objective is to survive and protect its national security. States must rely on their own military strength, power, strategies to defend themselves from threats because the international system is anarchic. Therefore, many states strengthen their military forces, increase defense spending, and form alliances to ensure their safety in an uncertain international system. For example, Malaysia's defense and maritime security. Malaysia's national security objective is to improve its defense forces and protect its maritime territories, especially in the South China Sea. Malaysia improves weapons and equipment, works with regional partners to protect sovereignty and national interests. This shows that states are worried about survival and security even during peaceful time, as they can face potential threat anytime. The last one is power is central in international relations. Realists believe that powerful states have more influence in international decisions and global politics. Countries with strong military and economic capabilities can shape international outcomes more easily than weaker states. For example, Russia and Ukraine. Look at how strong their military power and national capabilities are in order to influence international relations. Russia's military invasion of Ukraine reflects the realist idea that states use power to protect strategy. Now,
Realism in IR can be categorized into 3 legendary thinkers. They are from philosopher, the lawmaker, and the scientist. The history began in the ancient legend, which is the thinkers Thucydides, in the concept power is relative. In his 5th century BC account of the Peloponnesian War, Thucydides argued that justice only exists between equals. In the real world, the strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. He believed war happens because of fear, specifically when a rising power threatens a dominant one. as Hans Morgenthau. The concept is human nature is selfish. By written after World War II, Morgenthau formalized realism into an academic rule book. He argued that politics is driven by human nature because people are naturally competitive and seek power. State will always act in their own national interest to stay on top. The last part for the structural expert by Kenneth Walsh. The concept is the system force US to fight. In 1979 was updated the theory. He said we don't need to blame evil human nature for war. Instead, he blamed anarchy, the fact that there is no world government. He argued that states are like companies in a market. They have to compete and without weapons just to survive, regardless of whether their leaders are good or bad.
Okay, the next one is the realism. There are three elements of realism. The first one is statism. So basically, statism is the foundation of realism. It indicates to claim, the first one, the state is the most important actor in the global politics, with all other actors as a secondary role. Okay, the second one is the state sovereignty indicate that the presence of the global community with a legal jurisdiction over its area. Okay, for the statism, there are two key criticisms in both empirical. The first one, the state is challenged from above and below. And then the second one, we call it as a normative ground, which means the state inability to respond to collective global crises such as human rights violation, environmental degradation, and also starvation. Alright, the second element is survival. It is the primary objective, which means all political leaders must adhere to the supreme national interest. There are no boundaries on what measure a state can do in the name of the necessity. They really see that the state as a unitary actor. So the state has sovereignty, which means it has authority inside its own borders and is not subject to any higher power. Alright, lastly is about the self-help. So self-help is mean like no other state or entity can be trusted to ensure your survival. It means not an unavoidable result of the absence of a global government. It is the reasoning that the state have been chosen. Furthermore, there are historical and also the contemporary cases where the nation have the preferred collective security system or the formation of regional security communities above the self-help.
So next we are going to move to the next part, which is analysis or realism. The phenomenon is Russia-Ukraine war. The Russia-Ukraine war can be explained through realist theory. Russia viewed Ukraine's closer ties with North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, as a threat to its security. From a realist perspective, Russia acted to preserve its sphere of influence and maintain regional power. Ukraine in turn sought support from Western states to strengthen its security. So this situation reflects the security dilemma where actions taken by one state to increase security cause other states to feel threatened and respond. The findings show that realism remains highly relevant. States continue to prioritize survival, security and power, while international institutions such as United Nations have limited ability to prevent major conflicts.
I will then talk about how realism impacts international relations. The first impact of realism on international relations is war and security competition. Realists believe that in order to defend themselves against threat, nations aim to strengthen their armed forces. Julian and corrupt Karl Popper's 2020 contained that states also engage in power balancing to prevent rival countries from becoming stronger, which can sometimes lead to war. For instance, in order to discourage one another during the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union compete by developing nuclear weapons and military might.
Next, the lack of international cooperation. Realism argues that governments' concerns about receiving unequal benefits or becoming overly dependent on others frequently prevent them from cooperating with one another. According to Lumia 2020, as a result, countries usually prioritize their own interests first. For example, during the COVID-19 epidemic, several countries were hesitant to share medical resources because they prioritize protecting their own citizens. In addition, security and survival is another impact of realism on international relations. The international system is viewed as anarchy in realism, which means that no higher power governs all states. Because of this, countries focus mainly on protecting their survival and national security, according to Romeo 2020. As an example, North Korea believes that developing nuclear weapons will help shield the nation from outside threats. Lastly, power and national interest. Realists say that national interest and power have a greater impact on international politics than morality or international cooperation. Kumar 2022 mentioned that this means states make decisions based on what benefits and strengthens their country the most. For instance, in order to safeguard their economies and national interests, various countries use trade restrictions and sanctions.
Realism theory has both advantages and disadvantages in explaining international relations. First, realism provides a realistic explanation of state behavior. According to A. Kumar, states act based on power and national interests rather than moral values. Since the international system has no central authority, countries must protect themselves, which explains why competition and conflicts often occur. Second, the balance of power helps prevent dominance. No single state can be more powerful because security is maintained through alliance and competition between countries. However, realism also has weaknesses. Realism is overly state-centric because it ignores the role of non-state actors, such as terrorist groups, NGOs, and multinational corporations. It also cannot fully explain modern conflicts and global cooperation. Lastly, realism assumes conflict is permanent and focuses too much on power struggles, even though cooperation between countries can still exist without a global government. So, in conclusion, realism explains international relations as a system without a central authority, where states act based on power and national interests. It emphasizes the balance of power as countries compete to stay strong and avoid domination. Realism also focuses on statism, survival, and self-help, although it is often criticized for focusing too much on conflict and state-centered politics.
That's all from us. Thank you.